everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. My name is Taylor and welcome to my tower. Today's video is very different for me because I don't think I've done like an actual book video yet, but I did get into reading this year. It was a new hobby that I developed and I did end up reading 12 books this year, which was my Goodreads goal. So I'm very happy that I met that goal and I can't wait to read more in 2025 and really start to develop, stronger opinions and expand my vocabulary and my imagination and, just get to know so many more like book characters and like really nail down what genres I like. So without further ado, let me share with you my thoughts and opinions on everything that I read in 2024. So the first book that I read this year is What Once Was Mine by Liz Braswell, and this is the Twisted Tales series of the Disney books, and this one is about Rapunzel's story. So in this book, Rapunzel, instead of having magical sunflower powers, she has moon powers, which are actually to harm people. So Mother Gothel is essentially a hero, not quite, but she is the one who keeps Rapunzel locked away and safe from being able to harm society. And this book is interesting because it takes place in Renaissance Europe, which is a little bit different than the movie, of course. And our villain in this story is actually Countess Bathory, I think is how you say her name, but she was actually a real villain in this time period who bathed in her victims' bodily red fluid. I don't know if YouTube would allow me to say that word. So this book is definitely very dark. We don't really get to know Pascal and Maximus hardly at all, and Rapunzel is actually a witch, so it's definitely a weird retelling in a sense. And we also have a brand new character in this story, and her name is Gina. She is the first person that Rapunzel meets on this journey, and so her and Gina are kind of like doing what her and Flynn do in the movie, where they get out and they are adventurous, and she's kind of the one who is running from her problems, and Flynn is only ever known as Flynn in this book. We don't ever get to know the Eugene side of him. There's no real iconic moments in this book that stuck out to me. It was definitely a little bit of a ways to like get through, but would I still recommend it? Obviously, if you are a Tangled lover, I think that any Tangled related book is really important because it's important for you to form your own opinions on the stories. So I did rate this 4 stars at the time, but I think if I were to read this now, I would probably rate it a little bit lower and give it closer to a 3-star rating. But nonetheless, this was the first book I read this year and I would still recommend it. And then the second book that I read this year was The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and I did rate this one 5 stars. I do have the physical copy, but it's currently lent out to a family member, so I don't like have it with me. But the reason that I picked this book up is because I am a film major, or was a film major. I have a film degree, and so seeing the clapboard on the cover of this book really drew me in, and I could tell that it was definitely probably going to be a good mystery. I think it's a very interesting mystery, and I don't think it's something that is too dark. I think that if you're looking to get into mysteries, this is a really good one. So the story revolves around our female main character named Annabelle, or who goes by Belle in this story. Her mother went missing and no one knows where she went. She was driving on the side of the road one day with Belle in the back seat as a baby, and all of a sudden she just up and left and no one knew what happened. So it's like 16 years later, I believe, and a small film crew is actually making a documentary about Rachel's disappearance, and all of a sudden Rachel comes back, which is where we get our title, The Reappearance of Rachel Price. And you would think that this would be like a joyous occasion for the family, that everything would go so smoothly, everyone would be happy that she's home, but of course that is not how it goes. Belle is very weary of her mom. She feels like things aren't adding up. She doesn't really understand where she went because she will not speak on where she was, so Belle just feels really abandoned by her. She doesn't trust her, and I do think that this book has a very good twist. It might be a little bit unbelievable, but I would love to reread this now knowing what I know and see if I could pick up on the signs as we go. I feel like there's so much character development in this book. I think it was written so well. I think that the twist was good. I just loved the story. So this is definitely a book that I would recommend. Even if you don't think you're into thrillers, I think that because the story is so interesting and different, you might find yourself really liking this. I'm definitely very happy that I read this year, and I would totally recommend it. And then the next book that I read is a short story called Not Happy Campers by Ash Keller. If I'm being so honest, I don't remember this book. I did rate it 2 stars, and I do also just have a very terrible memory, so a lot of the information that I'm sharing is me like refreshing my memory from reading reviews on Goodreads. But this one, I just read the entire synopsis and I'm like, why don't I remember this like hardly at all? So I feel like that tells you whether or not I think this book was worth it, because obviously I don't, but I will still read you kind of the end of the synopsis. That way you can kind of get a feel for what's going on here. So we have our female main character, Lainey, and our male main character, Lance. He offers to pay her to be his fake fiance for whatever his gain was. And it says, Not Happy Campers is a laugh out loud, funny, clean, romantic comedy with sizzling chemistry, witty banter, and smile-tingling kisses. If you love a good enemies to lovers or fake relationship story that ends with a happily ever after, then this book is for you. I don't think that this book is worth it because, like I said, I really don't remember it, so that is pretty much all I have to say about this. The next book I read is Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I did rate this one 5 stars. This book made me realize that I am definitely a Emily Henry fan, even though this is the only book that I've read by her so far, and I do also have the physical copy of this, but I loaned it out to another family member, so I also just don't have it right now. But I just love this cover so much. I think that it is so pretty, and it's honestly the reason that I picked up this book. But this book takes place in the summertime. I think it's a perfect summer read. So it takes place in Maine at the friend's family cottage that is being sold. So they're going for like one last celebration, and it's a group of like 5 or 6. Now don't quote me on the details because it's been a while since I've read this and I'm not 100% sure on everything, but this is just what I remember. And our female main character is Harriet and our male main character is Wynn, and they've been together since college, so I think it's been about a decade, and they have been broken up for the last 6 months and don't want their friends to know for whatever reason. So they both get invited separately and don't realize that the other is going to be there, so they have to just pretend that they're still together, that everything is perfectly fine. And it's just a really heartfelt book. It's called Happy Place because this is the friend's happy place, but in reality it is definitely not a happy book. There's a lot of character development over the course of the week or weekend that they're at this cottage, and it's just so detailed. It's written so beautifully, and I just found myself rooting for both characters and just like really wanting them to be able to work it out. But it's still definitely such a good book, and I am so happy that I read it this year. The next book I read was on my Kindle, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa. This is the first book that I read on my Kindle, and I read this in the pool, and it was definitely really nice summer vibes. So this book is about our female main character, Piper, who is a popular and wealthy LA influencer, and her stepfather is some like really big rich guy. And one day she finds herself in enough trouble that her stepdad is like, you know what, I'm going to send you to Westport, Washington to go fix up an old family bar or something like that. So she has to go and work there and just try to have this different life than just being a rich influencer. And as soon as she gets there, she meets a fisherman named Brendan. The two of them obviously fall in love, and that is like the moral of the story, and just how Piper develops from this like bratty rich influencer just to like a more down-to-earth woman was very interesting to watch. I rated this book 3 stars just because I don't like the way that Tessa Bailey describes the spice scenes. I'm personally just really icked out when authors say Christ and Jesus Christ in moments like that. I'm not even like religious at all, but there's just something about those words being used and like how vulgar the characters switch to when in reality they're very like soft-spoken and normal, and then like as soon as we switch to that they just become like animals essentially. It's just a really big ick for me because it's just like, whoa, where did this come from? It's just not my personal cup of tea. So for that reason, I have found that I don't think that I'm a huge Tessa Bailey fan. I've also read another book which we'll get to, but yeah, for the most part I just don't love the writing style in those scenes especially. However, the rest of the story I thought was really good, so for that reason I did still rate it 3 stars, but just like personally I'm not a fan of how she writes her spice scenes. The next book that I read is another summer setting one, and that is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Through this book I discovered that I'm definitely a Christina Lauren fan for sure. They are 2 women who share the pen name Christina Lauren, and I just think that the 2 books I read by them, I rated them both 5 stars. I think it's written beautifully. I think that the stories are so entertaining and different. And so The Unhoneymooners is about our female main character Olive, who is attending her sister's wedding, and the best man in the wedding is a guy named Ethan who Olive just hates. And at this wedding everyone gets severe food poisoning from eating bad shellfish, and of course Olive and Ethan were the only 2 who did not consume the shellfish. Therefore the all expenses paid honeymoon to Hawaii is the next day, and of course they're the only 2 that can go. So her sister says, please go use this vacation, don't let it go to waste, and just go have a good time. And so when they get to Hawaii they are just really into enjoying this trip for themselves. They're not really like trying to bond. And Olive has always been known for her string of bad luck. It is is like the defining characteristic of her in the story. So when she gets to the island, she runs into her future boss for a job that she had just gotten, and she lies to this boss and says that Ethan is her husband and that they are there on their honeymoon. So they spend the entire vacation just faking the fact that they are on a honeymoon, and obviously things start to develop and it becomes a really good story. I read this in one day when I flew from Jersey to Idaho, so the fact that this is my first book that I read start to finish in one day is really cool, and I'm happy that I get to say that I did that, especially because if you guys don't know this, I have really struggled with reading for a very long time, and so the fact that I was able to like read, comprehend, and like enjoy a book in one day especially was just like a really big deal for me. So this book is just a little bit more special to me for that reason, but overall it's definitely a very good read, and I can't wait to continue to read Christina Lauren. So this is definitely a 5-star read for me, and I would highly recommend. The next book that I read is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey, and this story follows our female main character Taylor, who is a elementary school teacher who goes on this trip with her brother to celebrate her brother's birthday or something. I can't remember what they're there celebrating, but they find a dead body in their Airbnb, and they are working alongside a bounty hunter to solve the case, and this bounty hunter's name is Miles. However, they're not supposed to be involved because they were just Airbnb guests, and so Taylor is really into true crime, so she wants to figure out what happened, and she's also just insanely attracted to Miles, and so the story just takes place of them just trying to solve this case together while also developing their own relationship. And this relationship felt so like forced to me. I just felt like if I was witnessing this in real life, they would not be compatible at all. Taylor is a very like softer person, and Miles was just not the male main character that I was rooting for. I felt like he was very vulgar, very like dark and edgy, and just not like a book boyfriend that I would prefer. So I just like did not necessarily love him, and so for that reason I didn't love this book. Once again, Tessa Bailey uses the words that I just don't like, and I just found it to be very off-putting. However, I will say that the story is definitely a cool concept, so for that reason I think it might be worth a read. But overall, I just did not really enjoy this book too much. I found myself cringing more than I found myself enjoying it, so I did rate this 2 stars, and this being my second Tessa Bailey book has made me realize I probably am just not a fan of her. I think recommending books is so situational because everybody's preferences are so specific and unique, so I don't know if I would recommend this one, but did I enjoy it? Not necessarily. The next book that I read was Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This book I rated 4 stars. I read this one on my Kindle. This book follows our female main character Trisha and her husband Ethan, who are newlyweds looking for a new home. They find this really nice mansion that's like up in the woods. It's really far away, and they end up getting snowed in when they get there, so they're forced to spend the weekend in this really creepy house, and they discover that it is the home of a psychiatrist who went missing 4 years earlier, and there's like fresh food in the fridge. Trisha hears noises and she just swears that someone is in the house with them, and that is pretty much as far as I will get into this book. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that the twist was definitely too over the top for me. I would love to reread this knowing what I know now, because I don't think that it would make sense, honestly, and for that reason I think that I would probably rate this a little bit lower. I think I would rate this more a 3-star book, but I will say that the story is still very entertaining, and I do think it's definitely worth a read if you do like thrillers, but I just didn't love the twist. I just felt like the author was trying so hard to put the twist out in left field just so that way no one could predict it, and so for that reason I just felt like it could have been a better ending and something I would have been a little bit more happy and satisfied with. But I did really enjoy the epilogue, and I liked where it went from that point, so I don't really know. I think I would rate this book somewhere between 3 and 4 stars, and I would recommend. I also totally skipped over the fact that I read this one this summer, but this is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I think I'm going to give this one the gold star for the year. I think this was my favorite read of 2024. So this book is something I haven't stopped thinking about since I read it. So this book follows our female main character Anna and our male main character Liam, who Anna calls West. So they both attend UCLA together, and at the time they get married because Anna needs subsidized housing and Liam comes from a lot of money, so it just benefited them to get married in college. And once they graduated, she thought she had signed divorce papers, and that was the end of it. They were basically total strangers, and it is now 5 years later, and Liam is interested in inheriting a $100 million inheritance from his grandfather. However, the only way to get that is to be married for 5 years, according to the family rules. So him and Anna actually never did get officially divorced, so they have to just come together as these two strangers, pretend to be married while they attend his sister's wedding in Bora Bora. And the setting is so perfect for a summer read. It is such a good book. I found myself really rooting for Liam and Anna the entire time, and Anna's honestly such a badass female main character because she really sticks up for Liam and his really shitty father at this island, and they just really develop such a powerful relationship so quickly. It is not a super spicy book. There's definitely some, but it's not like the main portion of the story, and I just love the characters so much. I loved the setting so much. I thought it was such a good book. It had me hooked the entire time, and honestly, this is the prettiest cover that I read out of any book this year as well. And so this is definitely a 5-star book, not only for the plot, for the characters, for the cover. It's just so good all around. So this is definitely my favorite of this year, and of course I would totally recommend for you to read it as well. And the next book I read was on my Kindle, and that was Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chipman. So this book follows our female main character Willow, who is a witch in the town of Pleasant Grove, and I just loved how the story opened up with the perfect Halloween setting, and her sister own this bakery together, and they are baking just all these pumpkin treats, and you get descriptions of the sights and the smells of this entire town, and just it's very much Halloween-y. So if you're looking for like good Halloween vibes for next Halloween, this book is definitely that. And our male main character is Damien, who starts out as a cat in this book. So Willow goes to an animal shelter to just simply adopt a cat because she's lonely, and she picks Damien, who's a very like nasty cat, and then one day he starts talking to her and she's like, whoa, you're a person. And he's like, yeah, I'm trapped as a cat. I need you to help me. So she uses her witch powers to switch Damien back to a person, but he is a demon, and in this world, witches and demons do not like each other, so they have to do everything they can to kind of make sure that no one knows that he's a demon. So he's just going around the town with her, attending Halloween parties, and everything seems to be going well until he meets her sister. And then this is where you learn about why Damien is really in Pleasant Grove in the first place, and that's about as far as I will get with this. I definitely thought that this was a cute and cozy little Halloween read, but it's nothing super memorable or iconic or anything like that. For that reason, I did rate it 3 stars, and I think if you're looking for a cute, cozy Halloween book, it's definitely a good one. The cover is super cute, but other than that, it's not anything really to write home about. The next book that I read was Cruel Winter with You by Hazelwood. I read this one on Kindle Unlimited just because it was on Kindle Unlimited and it has a cute cover, and I've been wanting to read Hazelwood, and I definitely would like to give her an actual chance with a real book because this one was so short. It was only 73 pages, so it's definitely very hard to rate anything super highly when it is that short. And honestly, I only read this book like maybe a month ago, and I hardly remember it. Like, I think I read it so quickly and I just like really don't remember it. So I do have notes over here that I'm referring to, but it follows our female main character Jamie and our male main character Mark. And Jamie goes over to Mark's house in a blizzard. She lives like a couple miles down the road. She walks to Mark's family's house to ask for a certain pan that her parents use. The entire family isn't home and only Mark is there, and Jamie and Mark are enemies, of course. She ends up getting snowed in with him because the snow has just picked up so much, so she decides to just stay there, and over the course of the night they rekindle their relationship, and it was a cute little quick story. So I did rate this 3 stars because I did like the writing, and there was a quote in this book that I found that I really liked, so let me see if I could find that. So this is Mark talking to Jamie. He says, Jamie, if anyone is aware of your flaws, it's me. You have the worst taste in TV shows. When you get angry, you get quiet instead of communicating. You care way too much about pleasing the people around you, especially your dad, who absolutely takes advantage of it. You become sleepy and basically useless past 9:30 at night. You have this odd belief that you cannot tell people how you really feel, or you'll be saddling them with the weight of the world and they'll leave you. But it's okay. I see these things. I've always seen them, and I love you because of, not despite them. I just felt like Mark was really describing me as a person, and it really felt like how Brad talks to me, and so that just really stuck out to me because I could just resonate with it so much, and I just thought that it was a really beautiful way to show that like Mark does understand Jamie and knows who she is. And so I just felt that if Hazelwood could make me highlight such a powerful line in such a short book, what else is she capable of doing for me? So I can't wait to continue to read Hazelwood in the future. So if you're looking for a cute, quick little winter read, I would definitely recommend this book for sure. And then the most recent book that I read is another one that I downloaded from Kindle Unlimited, and that is No Exit by Taylor Adams. So this book I rated 3 stars stars. The film came out back in 2022 and I did already watch that. I definitely think that the book is better than the movie. It is a lot more detailed. It's drawn out a little bit too much in my opinion. I think this book could have been a lot shorter. I felt like we could have gotten to the point a lot quicker. I will say that I was very satisfied with the ending, and I feel like this ending stuck out to me the most out of pretty much every other book I read, and so for that reason I think I definitely rated it a little bit more highly than I would have liked to. And this book takes place just before Christmas Eve, and it follows our female main character Darby, who is trying to go visit her mom who is dying in the hospital, and she gets caught in a huge snowstorm up on a mountain, so she's forced to take shelter in a rest stop where there are 4 other characters. And when she is there, she's looking for a cell signal, so she's outside trying to get that, and she sees a little girl locked in the back of a van, and so she's trying to figure out who of the 4 people inside are responsible for the kidnapping of this little girl. So it's definitely an interesting book. I just wish that I hadn't seen the movie first, because I think it would have swayed my opinion just because I knew where the book went. It's a little bit more of a graphic book. It's not anything like over the top. I didn't have like nightmares or anything about it, but if you're a little bit squeamish, I think that there's probably some trigger warnings here. But overall, like, I wasn't too happy with this book just because I felt like it went on for so long, but I did still like this enough that I did rate it 3 stars. So I think if you are into mysteries, this is probably a pretty good classic to read, but overall I don't think it was great. It was just fine. And then the last book that I read this year is the one that I'm currently reading, so I have not finished it, so I'm not able to give it a rating or really tell you guys if I would recommend it, but so far I'm really enjoying it, and that is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. I decided to purchase this book because I thought that the cover was so cute. I love the concept of it being a mystery and a romance book because I feel like that's hard to find, especially for Christmas time. So I'm only like 30 or 40% through the book at this current time, and I am loving it. So it follows our female main character Maggie and our male main character Ethan, which is crazy that I read 3 books this year with the male main character named Ethan, but they are both co-workers at a publishing company, and Maggie is a crime thriller writer and Ethan writes different kinds of books. But one day at a Christmas party, Maggie's editor, I believe, is the one who tells her your biggest fan wants to invite you out to their estate for Christmas, and this would be a really dumb opportunity for you to pass up. You're being so cute. You're always cute. So Maggie decides to take the offer, and so she gets on this private jet at the airport and she discovers that Ethan is on there. So they are going to the estate of Eleanor Ashley, who is the biggest thriller writer in history in this book. She has written 99 novels and Maggie is a huge fan of hers. And when they get there, Eleanor goes missing, and the plot of the book is for everyone to figure out where she went, and it's also a love story between Maggie and Ethan. So I'm very interested to see not only Maggie and Ethan's relationship develop, but I'm also very interested to see what happened to Eleanor and to just like get answers. So it's definitely a really cute and like cool concept, so I definitely think it's going to be a high rating for me. So far Ethan is a very stuck-up guy, and he's just known for his chiseled jawline and you know how social he is, and he's just like this perfect guy. And Maggie is someone who has a lot of like trauma in her past, so it will be interesting to see how these two come together, but I definitely am loving it so far. And if you have read it, let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram because we can chat about it. But that is everything that I read in 2024 and my thoughts and feelings about it all. I'm definitely so happy that I picked up reading this year. It's definitely been a new hobby that I've been loving doing, and I can't wait to expand on this in the future. I definitely want to take more notes on the books that I'll read in 2025 and like also incorporate them more into my vlogs. That way I can just talk to you guys about the book. I just think that would be so fun to start incorporating that hobby over here. So let me know how you guys feel about that, but let me know what your favorite read was this year, and maybe I will add that to my TBR as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up because it helps other people to find my channel. Also be sure to subscribe for a few more vlogmas videos coming your way, and I will see you real soon. Bye.